Okay, we're spiritual beings in a physical body. Our thought creates reality and we're all connected. That's how I start all the videos, because that's the kind of basics of what it is to be a human in this world. And it's important to start with that, because if you don't start with that kind of concept, shall we say, then the rest probably doesn't fit. So, there's not much point in going much further if that's the case. But I would ask you to listen anyway to myself or anyone else that makes any videos or has information about this earth that we now live on, which seems to be a little more unreal than what some of us would have thought. Now, the title of the video was the Archons and humans vying for existence, battling in a kind of game for the existence of this earth. As usual, I will be battling to make the video, but that's part of it, you see, because everything is like that in this world. It is a continual backwards and forwards battle against the controlling force, which is the Archons. That's the descriptive term, the collective term that a lot of people use and I use to describe the entities, humans, and anything you want to name that controls the earth. Okay, so different people might vary on who or what they think is the ultimate controlling force of this earth, because I suppose eventually it would come to a top level where you'd say there is I always say a God entity that controls the whole thing. That's only because we think that way and operate that way. We don't tend to think of a huge group as actually controlling the earth. We tend to think in terms of gods, okay? But that is probably reasonable in the sense that although obviously it is not one entity that actually makes the earth what it is. In other words, it's not like we imagine. I wouldn't think, like we have religion and we tend to think one God does everything, and that that is fair enough. But if you're talking about the actual earth, you'd have to say that humans control most of the earth. And I think this is reasonably true, okay? Humans actually operate in the earth, on the earth, whatever. Whereas a God entity, that would be outside of it. That's how we would conceive it. It's hard to conceive these things. But whether you believe in any God, even in a religious way, you still know that there is no direct contact at the present time with any God entity, at least for the majority of human beings, okay? They're separate from whatever controls, whether you believe religiously that it's a God, or whether you believe it's humans at the top, or whether you believe it is something else, a interdimensional God-like entity, being from another realm or whatever. It's all the same thing, really, in a way. That's what I would say. It doesn't, you can go any direction you like in that if you want it. There would be a truth behind it where, you know, if you really wanted to pinpoint it, where, you know, where, like I say, it's a technical being only because there is so much technology on the earth, okay? And that is, so therefore, that takes you, if we're spiritual beings, that means that we are living in a technical domain governed by a technical being. Whereas a lot of people might say, well, look, my God is a spiritual God because I'm spiritual. Well, that's up to you. But I'm saying that this world is not ruled by a spiritual God. It's ruled by a technical God, okay? Now, and even that is open to debate and a term. It's not something I can say 100% because, you know, you could have a spiritual being that has gone in a different direction, shall we say, and therefore has adopted and incorporated technology into their being, sort of thing, and into their use as we have, okay? So therefore, but I would say that that would take the being further away from spirituality, and that would be a choice. It could well be a choice by the God entity, okay? I'm not sure about that. I look, there is histories and things and explanations, but I'm not going to go into that at the moment, I don't think. Now, I was going to say that it's like this. The title is A Battle for Existence between the humans and the Archons, only in the sense that we coexist, okay? But most humans probably would not be aware of this and would not acknowledge it. Now, this is where it gets difficult because I've said before, we are spiritual beings, but we are in a non-spiritual realm in the sense that we are in a technological earth now. That is what is around us now, and it is what I've said before in the videos, a matrix type thing, a system, and you probably would agree with that because you know that our societies and things are run by systems. They're not just random, they're not chaotic, they're not, what's that word? We don't really have anarchy, okay? That means anarchy means where anything goes, and it would just be humans operating. You know, you could say the Garden of Eden was anarchy, right? Because humans just operated before intervention, shall we say, that was really anarchy, if you look at it that way, because it really means where humans are just allowed to decide everything for themselves, and they don't have systems or society or that type of thing. Now, you could say that was anarchy, and then the serpent come along and created our civilized society. I'll leave that one to ponder you for yourself. We had anarchy in the Garden of Eden originally, right, where humans were just free to figure things out and battle it out for themselves, you could say, one way or the other. But, you know, it wasn't a battle at all, obviously, because it was supposed to be, you know, the opposite. They were in harmony with themselves and nature and the earth. But then the serpent come along and got them out of that chaos, out of that anarchy, shall we say, into the civilized world that we have now, you know, and there was intervention and humans were changed in the sense that they were not operating at the same capacity. They swapped the spirituality for knowledge, for the tree of good and evil, for the right and wrong, for the black and white, for the duality, reverse world, opposite complex world that we now live in. That's how it's gone. Of course, it probably took a long time to get quite to that point, but that is essentially what it is. Duality means that we are aware of right and wrong, that we think about good and bad. We think about good and evil, whereas before we didn't, okay? That's the duality world that the serpent introduced to us. If you're taking this from a biblical or religious type concept, you can take it from the other concept of, but it's still a spiritual battle in a way for the human being if they are spiritual beings, you see. But if you take it from the other concept that even that just represents the arrival of interdimensional, technologically advanced beings from another realm coming here and interacting with the human beings and even mingling with them and changing them, you know, or at least changing most of them, I'm guessing. I don't know what the real situation there was because I wasn't around then. I may have been, but I certainly don't remember it. The only reason I say that is because there again, if you believe that we incarnate, it is possible, I suppose, okay? Because if you're a spiritual being, you really should be eternal. So where do you go? Where have we been before? Where do we go after? So I suppose that kind of makes a kind of sense, doesn't it? Now, okay, so I hope I'm not making too much noise by doing this. I'm moving it because I'm uncomfortable because my back gets sore when I'm leaning that way. But, okay, so when I say the battle, it's because I think that we are in this realm with other forces that control the actual earth, right? Archons, that's a descriptive term of a collective of beings, probably with what you would call a head, a god, because that is where others, minions, followers, disciples, in the vast amounts, follow, worship, and take directions from a god or a head being or, you know, that type of thing. I'm trying to use the right description, but I don't know if I'm using the right description. That's why I have to use the word God, because a God entity being, okay? Because that means that that is the all-powerful being that others worship and follow and take directions from, and believe that that being has power. And of course, if you give anyone or anything you give yourself over to that, then you give your power to that being, so then the being is powerful, because it's like anything else, isn't it? It's common sense. If you are, you know, if you're going into battle and you have a leader, you follow that leader, so that you're giving yourself over to the leader. You will fight for the leader, you know. So that's just it's kind of like that, you know what I'm saying, I guess. So we're in the matrix type world in the sense that it's technical and that it's operated by either humans. Obviously it's operated for humans. Humans operate in the matrix, in this earth, on this earth, for the god, or the god and their minions, and their followers and their disciples, as I've said before. I don't know the exact terms. It works like that because you could be the most powerful being ever, but you still need, strangely enough, and this is interesting, you still need disciples. You still need others to act for you. The gods, whether you believe in them or not, do not act solely and cannot have. I mean, logically, if you look at the world, you can see that this is the case, that they do not have the power to act solely. They must have disciples and minions. So the idea that we have of this one all-powerful God, even though we know that he doesn't interact with us anyway, I'm talking about like in our religions, we can see that they only act through humans, because otherwise we wouldn't have the world that we have. We would, especially if you believe in a God that wants harmony and peace, you would have to say quite honestly, this is not the case. Humans act. The gods act through humans on the earth. And look at the earth, you see. So that's what I would say. You just look at the earth. The God entity, whatever God you want to believe in, right? This is just looking at it practically. He acts through humans, influences humans on the earth, or humans act for him, or humans are manipulated by him, or humans, I don't know, whatever you'd want to say about it, but look at the earth, the world, and look at humans, and think about what God they are acting for, or what the God is giving them directions for, or are they ignoring a God and doing the opposite? You see, these would be all the arguments that I would have to. This is just the confusion of the world, but I'm saying, I've said before that there is a particular entity that must operate and have total dominion over the earth. But if you want to take it another way and say that's not the case, and there is a different type of God, say the God that we assume we worship through with some of the religions. But, you know, that would be something that I would probably dispute, but, you know, but then you would have to say that that God is not creating the earth that represents his mindset. I mean, you would assume that if humans are praying to their gods, whatever that God is, and acting in conjunction with some God, and this is only the ones that do believe this way, then the world should represent that God, I would think, you know, and that's what I would think. Of course, some are saying that yes, like the title of the video, there is a kind of battle going on there's a battle going on between the gods, God, and the humans. And the humans are battling one another even about the gods, because there could be, like, humans might on the earth might worship or believe in different gods. We don't see that very pronounced in most people's everyday life, but it is the case. It is the case that is what is happening. They are battling. Humans are battling one another over the gods, and the gods are battling the humans. Now, the title of the video, I'm going to try to keep on track because I know I've already lost you and I've lost myself too. The title of the video was Archons and Humans Battle for Existence. Now, I have said before that you know, we are spiritual beings in a physical body, in a physical domain that we help to create with our thinking, but that is taken over by the world around us, by the physical world. And it is directed mentally and physically in every way by this matrix type earth that we live in. By that I mean the technology, okay? The technology and the idea even of society directs us how to think about the world in a way. And we tend to follow that, okay? If you know what I mean. Now, I think I might have made this point in another video, but I'm going to go back there because I'm not sure if I made it clear. Now, there is a battle kind of going on because it's a battle, but most humans are not even aware they're in it, in the sense that they are not even acknowledging the Archon God entity, and they also don't acknowledge that they are in a matrix type world either. In other words, that it is a computer generated, like in the movie The Matrix, as I've said before, exactly like that. Look, it doesn't matter if it's not true, okay? It doesn't matter if everything I say is wrong. I still think that we are in not a random planet world, okay? That I am sure of. And that it is not what we think, and that we do have input into it, but we are unaware of our input. So therefore, even if it's random, we are inputting into it but unaware of it. Now, I'm confusing you again. I'm confusing myself. That means it's not random in any way, either way. That's what I would say. So even if it was just our earth, I would have to say there are some, and if we are spiritual beings and we have input by our thinking, then it can't be random, you see. We are operating in it, we are controlling it directly and mainly indirectly because we're not conscious of it and we don't have full capacity over it. Because we believe we are in a physical world and the physical is all random, and that, you know what I'm saying. So, but at any rate, the point that I'm trying to get to, very laboriously, I know, and I apologise. I'll put this back here again. I apologise that I don't make these videos clear or